Welcome to the official podcast of Vienna Shadows, a secret society uncovering Vienna's hidden mysteries. Lean back and enjoy the show.
Picture this. You step out onto the cobblestone streets and the cold hits you so hard it actually steals the breath right out of your lungs.
Oh yeah, that biting cold.
Exactly. It's the 1920s. You are in the heart of the Republic of Austria, right? In a Vienna that is just absolutely crippled by coal shortages and hyperinflation.
Right.
But, this isn't just a bitter winter. There is something profoundly wrong with the snow falling around you.
That is such a great hook.
Yeah. So this is the setting of the White Shroud campaign guide, and our mission today is to dive deep into this material and equip you, the game master, with all the tools, the tension, and, the atmospheric dread you need to run a completely unforgettable game night for the Vienna Shadows tabletop role-playing game.
Just, it's a remarkably layered piece of source material.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a real-world historical crisis, the actual freezing desperation of post-World War I Vienna, and it twists it into this massive canvas for cosmic horror.
Yeah, it really does.
But to actually make your players feel that dread at the table, well, we have to look at how the setting and the mechanics feed into one another.
Right. And just to ground us before we throw your players to the Winter Wolves, Vienna Shadows uses that incredibly elegant D6 system, right? The roll-under system.
Yes, exactly.
So you're tracking intellect, charisma, perception, and strength. And I've always thought of roll-under as basically a mechanical game of limbo.
A game of limbo. I like that.
Yeah, you have a target number based on your attribute, and the lower you roll on that standard six-sided die, the safer you are. You slip right under the bar.
Right, and if you roll too high, you knock the bar down, and things get very bad very quickly.
Exactly.
That simplicity, I think, is really the engine of the horror here.
Yeah.
As a game master, you really don't want a bogged-down combat system, killing the pacing when a monster is literally breaking through a frosted window.
Yeah, you want those fast, brutal resolutions.
Right. And tied to those quick rolls are the two survival meters.
Okay.
You have health, which tracks your physical meat, and verstand, which is your sanity.
Right.
Hit 0 on health, you die. Hit 0 on verstand, and you descend into permanent madness.
And as we dive into this specific campaign, the genius of White Shroud is that you aren't just losing health and verstand to, eldritch abominations or cultists.
Oh, no, not at all.
The environment itself is essentially an active, hostile NPC that is just trying to wipe your party off the map.
It absolutely is.
So let's look at the city itself. What are the players actually walking into when they start this campaign?
Well, they're walking into a city that is violently cleaved into by temperature. Because of the hyperinflation and the coal shortages, the class divide is it's entirely visible.
Right, you can literally see it.
Exactly. The wealthy elite glide around the frozen plazas in thick furs, basically treating the ice as a winter playground. Meanwhile, the poor are shivering in these unheated Zimmerkuche cabinet apartments.
Which are just a room and a kitchen, right?
Yeah, these tiny, drafty, one-room-in-the-kitchen setups. There's simply no escaping the cold for the working class.
Man. And the sensory details the guide provides are just gold for a game master. You can describe the Chris Kindle mark at the Frühling to your players.
Oh, the holiday Maritzits.
Right, you hit them with the smell of roasted chestnuts, the Maroni in a hot punch. Sounds inviting, almost festive,
It does.
But then you describe the vendor tucked away in the shadows selling glass ornaments that, if a player looks closely, feature these unearthly geometries that actually make their eyes ache to look at.
Yeah, you're lulling them into a false sense of holiday security and then just completely undercutting it with the unnatural.
So good.
And a really great place to leverage that is the Danube River. The Alte Donau is frozen so completely that it's become like a pedestrian highway.
Wow.
But the guide actually instructs GMs to describe the ice as a perfect dark mirror. If a player looks down into it, the reflection they see isn't the sky above Vienna.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's a sky filled with completely wrong alien stars.
I can already see the players just absolutely refusing to step foot on that ice.
Well, they might try to avoid it, but you can kind of force them to, because the rules actually back up the narrative dread. The biting cold mechanic is a perfect example of how the system pressures the party.
Oh, right, the exposure rules.
Yeah, if they spend an hour outside in the blizzard without securing a heavy coat, they have to roll under their strength.
And let's look at the consequence of failing that roll, because it's rough. They don't just take a bit of arbitrary damage.
No, you don't.
They take the frostbitten penalty, which adds +1 to the difficulty of all physical checks.
Which is massive. I mean, in a limbo system where you want to roll low, adding +1 to your target difficulty means your odds of slipping under that bar just plummeted.
Exactly. You are stiff, your fingers are numb, you just can't run as fast or hit as hard.
It creates a complete death spiral. And if they're out on that frozen river we just mentioned, you bring in the thin ice mechanic.
Oh, I love this one.
Yeah, if the players get into combat, or maybe a chase sequence on the ice, any roll of a 6, which is the absolute worst outcome on a d6, causes the ice to spiderweb and crack.
See, I love how that works at the table. A 6 isn't just a miss, you know? It fundamentally changes the battlefield.
Exactly, the environment reacts to the chaos.
Right. Suddenly, someone has to pass a desperate strength check, or they plunge into the freezing depths, taking physical damage and this massive hit to their Verstand from the sheer terror of the black water.
It's terrifying.
So as a GM, you are basically using the cold to constantly herd your players inside. But where do they go?
Well, the Grand Cafes, places like Cafe Central or Cafe Spurl, are really the only true sanctuaries left in the city. The wealthy have, ensured these places are heated.
Naturally.
Right. So the air inside is this thick soup of cigar smoke, the steam of melange coffees, and just desperate whispers. If the party spends a scene here, the frostbitten penalty is removed.
But, and this is honestly my favorite mechanical twist in the whole guide, they can't just huddle in a corner by the radiator, can they?
No, they cannot.
To get the benefit of the sanctuary, to clear the frostbite and heal a point of Verstand, a player actually must pass a charisma check to engage in, quote, civilized conversation.
I love that rule so much. It forces engagement with the setting's social norms. The world outside might be literally freezing over. Cosmic horrors might be clawing at the doors. But inside Cafe Central, one must still observe Viennese coffeehouse etiquette.
Think about the roleplay potential there. Your players just barely survived a chase across cracking ice. They are bleeding. They are terrified. Their coats are totally soaked in freezing water.
They're a mess.
Right. They kick open the doors to the cafe, and the GM just asks for a charisma check.
Yeah.
The player has to sit there with chattering teeth and passionately debate Austrian opera or modern art with some skeptical baroness just to calm their fraying sanity.
It is brilliant tension relief, but it doesn't let them off the hook mechanically.
Not at all.
And, it also highlights the absurdity of the elite's bubble. But it naturally begs the question, if survival requires the social capital to drink coffee at Cafe Central, what happens to the people in the outer districts who can't afford a cup?
Which brings us to the corrupted folklore. Because, in tabletop horror, the monsters really shouldn't just be random sacks of hit points. They should mean something.
Absolutely.
And the guide takes these traditional alpine winter myths and just infects them with Lovecraftian dread born directly from the city's suffering.
Yeah. Take the tale of Frau Hall. The classic fairy tale says that when it snows, it's just Frau Hall up in the clouds shaking out her feather beds.
Right. It's a comforting story you tell children.
Exactly. But White Shroud turns that into an absolute nightmare.
Completely.
In this campaign, Frau Hall is actually a herald for Ithaca, the Windwalker. So those beautiful snowflakes. They are actually crystalline flakes of cosmic dust falling from the outer voids.
Oh, that is so bleak.
It is. The blizzard isn't weather, it's a hunting ground. Victims caught in it aren't just freezing to death in the snowbanks. They are violently sucked up into the sky.
Wow.
And then days later, they are dropped back onto the cobblestones as these hollowed-out, frozen husks.
I would describe the sound of that to my players. Like not just howling wind, but a rushing vertical updraft.
It's great detail.
But I think the most tragic monsters in the guide are the starving ones. They are tied to the Krampusloft parade, but they remind me heavily of Wendigo myths. How do we deploy these without them just feeling like generic zombies in the snow?
Well, you deploy them by emphasizing their tragedy. The starving ones are the direct result of the coal and food shortages.
Right.
They are the poorest citizens who, driven to the absolute brink of madness by the freezing temperatures, resorted to cannibalism. And the setting dictates that this act mutates them into gaunt, elongated horrors. So when you describe them to your players, you shouldn't just describe claws and teeth. You should describe the tattered remnants of their working-class clothes.
That grounds the horror so well, because they're literally the physical manifestation of the city's socioeconomic collapse.
Exactly.
And on the flip side of that organic horror, we have a manufactured one, right? The Christ kind. Traditionally, the Christkind is this beautiful, angelic figure that brings gifts to Austrian children.
Right, but here, a cult has built an automaton version out of glass and brass.
Yes. And it pulses with a sickly radioactive blue light.
It's so creepy.
Because it's designed to house an alien mind. I mean, when I read that, I immediately thought, okay, who is building a radioactive glass angel in the middle of an economic depression?
A very fair question.
The players are going to want to track down the architects of this thing.
And that search introduces the political powder keg of the campaign, the 4 competing cult factions, which honestly, managing faction play can be incredibly daunting for a game master.
Oh, absolutely. Factions usually just devolve into massive lore dumps where the players are sitting there taking notes like it's a history lecture.
Right.
So how does the guy handle these 4 groups to prevent that?
By making their winter agendas entirely mutually exclusive, forcing them to literally collide. First, you have the Black Robes, representing chaos.
Okay.
They believe this unnatural winter is a liberation from a false reality. Their goal is absolute cosmic annihilation, welcoming the Windwalker. So they are actively sabotaging municipal coal trains to freeze the city faster.
And on the other end of the spectrum, you have the Golden Robes representing control. These are the elite, right? The ones hoarding the coal.
Exactly.
They don't want the world to end. They want to harness the cosmic entity as a weapon to permanently freeze out their political rivals and establish a brutal martial law.
Right. And then you have the scholars, the Crimson Robes, who are actually fractured into 2 opposing camps.
Right. The split.
Yeah. The main branch seeks knowledge. They are the ones who built the glass of Christkind. They plan to drag it onto the frozen Danube for a massive summoning ritual. Their working theory is that the thick river ice will act like a gigantic recording crystal, basically capturing the cosmic memories of the summoned entity.
Literally turning a frozen river into an Eldritch hard drive. I love that so much.
It's wild.
Yeah.
But they are opposed by their own splinter group, the Cracked Branch.
Right.
The Cracked Branch looked at the math and realized this ritual will probably shatter reality. They are desperately trying to disrupt the city's lines and physically break the ice of the Danube to stop the main branch.
So as a GM, you have 4 totally distinct motivations. Black Robes want to freeze everything. Golden Robes want to hoard the heat and rule. Crimson Mane wants to summon the alien mind. And Crimson Cracked wants to stop the summoning.
Yes.
How on earth do you present this to the players without totally overwhelming them?
Well, the trick is you don't present it to them. You throw them into the middle of it.
Oh, nice.
The campaign guide provides a 3-act adventure arc called the Glass Christkind that really acts as a masterclass in pacing. It doesn't introduce the factions one by one. It just crashes them all together in an escalating timeline.
Okay, let's walk through how a GM actually runs this arc at the table. Act 1 is called The Bloody Bauble. It's the first week of Advent.
Right.
The players are in the warmth of Cafe Central when the Cracked Branch approaches them with a locked room mystery. A prominent occult scholar from the main branch has been found dead.
But the detail that will really hook your players is that the scholar was found frozen solid inside an apartment where the radiators were blasting at maximum heat.
It is wild.
And the door was locked from the inside.
GMs, just watch your players try to figure out how someone freezes in a boiling room. The clue is a pulsating glass ornament he's clutching, right? One of those baubles from the Crease Kindle mark.
Exactly. The players will naturally investigate the market. This is where you use the perception attribute. They have to track down the Black Robes who are selling these void baubles.
Okay.
And as a GM, you explain the mechanics of the horror here. These impossible geometries literally drain ambient heat from the air to thin the dimensional barrier. That's how the room was hot, but the man froze.
So Act 1 introduces the mystery and basically pits the players against the Black Robes while allying them tentatively with the Cracked Branch.
Right.
Then mid-December hits and we enter Act 2, The Stolen Heat. A massive, unnatural blizzard buries Vienna.
And the Golden Robes use the weather as cover to seize the main coal depot at the Nordbahnhof. They are hoarding the city's lifeblood.
The players, through their investigation, realize the main Crimson Robes are secretly siphoning that diverted energy to power their radioactive glass angel.
Yeah, which sets up a phenomenal infiltration mission. The players have to navigate the Nordbahnhof. Just think about the environment you can describe here.
Oh, massive shifting dunes of black coal just covered in frost.
Exactly. And you weren't just dealing with Golden Robe paramilitary guards. The cold has drawn out the starving ones.
Yes. So your players are trying to use stealth, but they are trudging over loud, shifting coal. You are calling for strength checks to climb the freezing mounds and perception checks to spot the mutated cannibals stalking them in the blizzard.
So tense.
And the frostbitten penalty we talked about earlier becomes a massive liability here. Every failed roll just raises the tension.
Absolutely. And whatever the outcome at the train yard, the players learn that the energy has fully charged the automaton. The ritual is happening tonight.
Which pushes us into the climax, Act 3, the ice record, taking place on Christmas Eve.
Right. This is where the GM gets to orchestrate a beautifully chaotic four-way collision on the Alte Donau. The main crimson robes have dragged this glowing glass monstrosity out onto the black ice. They are chanting, initiating the summoning.
Okay.
But they aren't alone. As the players arrive, the black robes emerge from the snowbanks. They don't want the entity recorded, they want it unleashed. So they are actively attacking the main branch to break the binding circles.
And then you hear the roar of engines. The golden robes arrive in armored trucks, sweeping these harsh paramilitary floodlights across the ice, opening fire because they want to steal the automaton for themselves.
It's chaos. And amid the gunfire, the chanting, and a howling wind of the approaching Windwalker, the cracked branch is screaming at the players to just shatter the river ice.
Imagine managing this at the table. It's basically a Mexican standoff in a blizzard, and the players are the wild card. I always ask, what if the players do something totally unexpected? What if they try to negotiate with the Golden Robes?
Well, the beauty of this climax is that the environment forces action over conversation. The ice is cracking under the weight of the trucks.
Right.
The temperature is plummeting so fast, they are actually taking automatic health damage. They have to act.
Yeah.
They can use intellect to try and decipher the magical nodes and short-circuit the ritual, or they can just rely on brute strength.
Reverting right back to that core D6 system, they can grab sledgehammers, use explosives, or literally just stomp on the fissures, rolling under their strength to collapse the frozen floor and plunge the radioactive angel into the freezing depths before the avatar fully materializes.
Highly cinematic, and the epilogue outlines the consequences clearly based entirely on the player's actions.
If they pull it off, the cosmic influence shatters. You can describe the unnatural howling wind dying down, replaced by gentle, normal snow falling over Vienna on Christmas morning.
What a relief.
Right. The players have saved the city from the outer voids, and the reward from the cracked branch is fantastic. It's an eldritch golden pocket watch that radiates permanent comforting heat.
Which is incredible. I mean, in a campaign centered on survival and freezing temperatures, an item that provides eternal warmth is infinitely more valuable than, like, a magical sword.
Oh, for sure. But if the dice betray them, or they hesitate too long, they fail. The glass automaton breaks open, the Windwalker's influence anchors itself to the city, and Vienna is plunged into a miniature ice age.
Yeah, and the Golden Robe sees absolute power ruling a frozen, starving populace with an iron fist.
It really gives you everything you need to run a tightly paced, deeply thematic arc.
It does. It really is a GM's dream. You have brutal mechanics that turn the weather into a villain, corrupted local folklore that grounds the monsters in the city's tragedy, and a four-way political tug-of-war that ends in an explosive set piece on a frozen river.
It's so well designed.
Yeah. But as we wrap up, there is a thematic undercurrent here that I think every game master should really reflect on when describing this world to their players.
Oh, what's that?
Well, think about the inciting incidents of the horror. The Outer Gods, the Windwalker, the crystalline snow. They are terrifying, yes.
Absolutely.
But they are essentially opportunistic. They only gained a foothold because of the mundane cruelty of humanity.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Right. If the elite Golden Robes hadn't deliberately hoarded the coal to preserve their own power and warmth, would the poor citizens have frozen in their apartments?
No.
Exactly. Would they have been driven to the cannibalism that birthed the starving ones?
Man, that's a brilliant point to emphasize at the table.
It's the ultimate truth of the setting. The cosmic entities didn't create the desperation. They just capitalized on the class disparity that was already there. It reminds your players that while the glowing alien angel is a threat, the most frightening thing in 1920s Vienna is what humanity is willing to let happen to its most vulnerable people. Just stay warm.
Wow, what a chilling thought to leave hanging over the table after a session. Good luck with your game night, everyone. Build that tension, let those factions collide, and whatever you do, keep your dice warm.
This concludes today's episode. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. Until next time. Vienna Shadows. Signing off.